I get it every time I'm scrolling through a deal site. I see a budget 4K TV paired with some generic soundbar that promises cinema-like sound for the price of a cheap sofa. The excitement turns into regret the moment you sit down and the dialogue sounds like it's coming from a tin can. The bass is either missing or feels like it's vibrating the entire room, and you realize you've just swapped one disappointment for another. That's the fear many of us have when we're looking at a massive TV and a soundbar bundle. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So, does the Hisense 100-inch U7 TV paired with the AX5140Q soundbar actually feel like a smarter buy, or is it just another big screen, weak audio story? First off, let's talk about the core problem that makes people hesitate. You've got a 100-inch screen that can deliver up to 3000 nits of peak brightness and 3000 local dimming zones, which essentially means the picture is stunning in a dark room, but if the sound doesn't keep up, the whole experience feels cheap. The soundbar in this bundle is a 5.1.4 system with Dolby Atmos, which on paper sounds like it could fill a living room with immersive audio. The real question is whether it actually delivers dialogue clarity and bass depth without turning your space into a low-frequency rumble. I've spent the last few weeks watching a mix of movies, sports, and gaming sessions with this setup, and here's what I found. Starting with dialogue, the AX5140Q's dedicated upward-firing drivers try to lift sound above the listener, and in practice they do a decent job of pulling dialogue out of a crowded soundtrack. In a busy action movie with explosions and a heavy score, I could still hear the main characters without cranking the volume. That's a big win for people who hate missing key plot points because of muffled speech. However, the quick touch EQ modes felt a bit superficial. Switching from music to movie mode changed the tonal balance slightly, but the differences weren't dramatic enough to justify fiddling with the settings every night. If you're looking for a set-and-forget experience, you'll probably stay in the default mode. Bass performance is where the bundle shows its limits. The 5.1.4 configuration includes a wireless subwoofer, but the room I tested in was a medium-sized family room with about 350 square feet of space. The subwoofer did deliver a thump you could feel, but the low frequencies tended to blur rather than tighten. In a horror film with a low rumbled soundtrack, the bass would sometimes mask other details, making it harder to hear footsteps or rustling leaves. If you're a bass-hungry audiophile who wants your movies to shake the floor, you'll likely want a more powerful subwoofer or a dedicated home theater system. On the other hand, for most viewers who just want clear dialogue and a pleasant whoosh effect, the current bass is acceptable and doesn't overwhelm the room. Surround effect is something I paid close attention to, especially because the bundle claims a 5.1.4 channel layout. The upward-firing drivers do create a sense of height, but the effect is subtle unless you're sitting directly in the sweet spot, roughly the center of the room, about 2 feet in front of the screen. Move a foot to the left or right, and the immersive feel drops noticeably. That means if your seating is spread out or you have a sectional that's off-center, the Atmos experience won't be as pronounced. The sound bar does a decent job of panning sounds left and right, so sports broadcasts still feel lively, but the ceiling-level effects aren't as dramatic as you might expect from a true theater setup. Room size fit is another practical consideration. The AX5140Q is fairly compact for a 5.1.4 system, which makes it look neat under the massive Hisense screen. The wireless subwoofer can be placed anywhere, but it does need some breathing room to avoid rattling against furniture. In my test space, placing the subwoofer against a carpeted wall gave the best balance. Too close to a concrete wall and the bass became boomy, too far, and it felt weak. If your living room is very small, the subwoofer might overpower the space. If it's large, you might need to add a second sub for consistent low-frequency coverage. Connectivity and remote ergonomics are surprisingly smooth. The soundbar connects to the TV via a single HDMI cable, and the TV's built-in Hivu AI Engine Pro automatically optimizes picture settings based on the content. The soundbar's remote is minimal, just volume, source, and the quick touch EQ buttons, so there's little chance of getting lost in a menu maze. The only hiccup was that the remote doesn't have a dedicated mute button, which can be a minor annoyance if you need to silence the TV quickly during a call. Now, who should actually buy this bundle? If you're a family that wants a big screen cinematic experience without breaking the bank, and you're willing to accept a good enough audio setup that handles dialogue and provides a